Welcome in everybody. 1.3 is officially out and has been named the Fire Support Update. And we have patch notes, and a lot of them. And I mean it, there is a lot of patch notes. We're going to go through all of the major ones. There's many little fixes and tweaks and things like that we will like quickly skim read. But we'll go over the major ones now. For people looking for the PlayStation players that are looking for mod support, it is not in this update. Sorry to break it to you. From what I've quickly looked over the patch notes, there's nothing about PlayStation mod support just yet. But without further ado, let's crack into it. So, first of all, we've got the new assets coming to the game. We've got the LAV-25 in the olive green and the camouflage variant, the BRDM USSR and FIA variants of it's like the light reconnaissance vehicle. It's like a lighter version of the BTR. We've got the UH-1H and the Mi-8 gunships. These are the ones with the rocket pods on the side, pilot controlled rockets. You can choose between shooting one or two rockets at a time, or you can shoot multiple bursts. The Mi-8 can fire all in one go, and it's pretty mental. The mortars for both teams, we've got the M252 and the 2B14 mortars for the US and Soviet respectively, adding a new dynamic to the game, being able to fire mortars and giving indirect fire support onto attacks. Buildings and trees can now be destroyed. I've put out a few videos already showcasing building destruction, tree destruction with mortars, rocket helicopters, mines, you name it. The PKMN machine gun has been added for the Soviet side. Basically the same as the current PKM, except it has a mount for a sight. You can put a scope on it. The civilian Mi-8 and UH-1H variants have been added in. These are like white and red and white and blue variants of the current helicopters. I'm pretty sure they have the same supply count as the standard passenger variants of the aircrafts. The BTR-70 got an FIA variant. Multiple variants of the UAZ-452 have been added, the cargo, transport, FIA and civilian variants. This is the van that was currently used for the Soviet ambulance. They now have a cargo and a transport variant. The cargo one takes 800 supplies if I remember. Also added was a cargo variant of the Sarkov 1203, which is the civilian transport van. The UK-59 4x scope, I believe this is the one that goes on the PKMN. Vehicles got light probes for selected vehicles. It's quite cool actually. The BRDM has a commander controlled light that can move around as well. That's quite cool. Possibility to turn out as commander in BTR-70, and a new keybind was added for being able to open and close doors without looking at them, and hatches. And the turnout, what it's talking about there, is being able to basically stand on your seat and look out the top of a hatch if you're in the LEV or the BRDM. A weapon information HUD element has been added for the gunship helicopters. Actually looks really clean. In the bottom right you can see how many rockets you have left when you're firing, and it looks good. Custom composition for helicopter rearm points, arsenal boxes replaced by ammo boxes fitting faction specific helicopter ammunition. This is actually quite cool. It's on the side of the helipads there's like a pallet board with rearm points for the helicopters. You'll see like loose like rocket pods and stuff like that. They've added switch sounds for turning lights on and off inside vehicles. The LAV can be reloaded by players at nearby repair trucks and vehicle depots. Crew uniforms for both the US and the Soviet side. Ballistic table gadgets that contain all mortar shell ballistic data. So in the mortar emplacements, where you get the ammunition from, there's a little arsenal box on the side of the emplacement. It also contains like a clipboard with all the ballistic data that you need to get accurate shots. Separate map kits for the US and Soviets that contain different protractors, and this is important because the Russian protractor, they use a different form of mils. So the total circle in US mils is 6,400 mils, whereas in Russia it only goes up to 6,000. Of course, we have the mortar shells, we have the HE, the smoke, and the illumination shells for both sides, and special mortar ammo containers that can store said shells. So obviously in your backpack you can only carry like 2 to 3 shells, but if you have a container you can carry like 6 in the container and store that in the same amount of space. Of course they've added a field manual, a specific mortar page for the field manual. Ruin states for all buildings. Of course, as buildings go down, It's not like dynamic destruction. They get the buildings just like sink into the floor. So once they've sunk into the floor, lots of smoke and debris is left around, and then you just see a ruined state for the building. I'm hoping we get more variants of these in the future, because right now the walls, like, there's very, very little cover from the ruined state. So I'd like to see a lot more variation, some with higher walls, so maybe like some window frames still standing, and then of course in the future it'd be amazing to get some sort of modular damage. They've added an officer cap for the USSR to the Soviet arsenal. It costs 20 supplies and is unlocked at the rank of captain. I haven't actually done any testing of this in the experimental branch. I don't know if there's any use case for the officer cap. I don't know if it's like better used for ordering the AI around, but we'll find out soon. The majority of gunner positions in light vehicles now have an animated get in and get out action, and it looks very clean. It looks, rather than teleporting in and out of the gunner positions, you now get in and out, especially in the Humvee. It looks really good. Like if you're going from the top of the Humvee, you actually do, yeah, it's all fully animated of you getting inside the hatch. It's really nice. A turned out character always gets out the door it's turned out from. It is now possible to close the door of other compartments when turned out. So if you are a commander in a BRDM, for example, and you are sticking out of the top hatch, rather than going back in and going out of the side door, you will simply climb out of the hatch that you were turned out of. The supply cost of bayonets has been reduced to 0, down from 10. So bayonets are now free. They disabled destruction on the medium transmitter tower. So these are the relay towers that you need to capture. And the problem is they were destructible. And once they were destructible, the objective was impossible to be completed. So that was a definite one that needed to be fixed. Nice to see they changed that. Added the ability to reload the LEV and the helicopter rocket pods with the ammunition truck and the arsenal truck. Transport trucks got a massive buff from 600 to 1500 supplies. That's a huge one. They tweaked the picture-in-picture reticule material. So this is the glass used in the scopes with the picture-in-picture, like the 3D scopes. They've tweaked the material, and I'm not sure, I'm guessing this is an optimization thing, because a lot of the modded scopes and stuff like that, they had to go and update their scopes and to replace it with the new material. So I'm wondering if this is some sort of optimization thing, but hopefully, because I will always take some better FPS whilst aiming down scope. They added backblast damage for the RPG and the lore, so you got to be careful now when you're firing. Make sure behind you is clear. Call out your backblast, because you will damage teammates. The arsenal has items that are rank locked. Certain items are gated behind a specific rank, and arsenals cannot be used if a player has the renegade rank. So if somebody's spawned in, done nothing to play their part of the game and has done nothing but team kill, they will not have access to the arsenal after that. And now, of course, you will have to earn some XP and to be able to unlock the more advanced and more specialized items in the arsenal. The game now knows if a player is disguised as another faction or an unknown faction. Killing a disguised friendly player no longer punishes you. However, if you kill enemies whilst you are disguised, you will be punished. They've added a new hand slot for carrying gadgets when the player doesn't have any space in your inventory. So if you're not holding anything, you haven't got any space for something in your bag, when you grab it, it will just go into your hand slot, rather than not being able to do anything at all. Whilst you're in the build mode, at a base, you'll be able to see friendly nicknames. I guess the main thing for that is if somebody's in the way and you're trying to play something, you can call them out by name. They've added interior reverb for dampers, impacts, and hatch animations. So when you're inside of a vehicle and those things are happening, like dampers, impacts, and hatches, it will have a different, more reverberated sound. They've added the option to have the server name display in the top right. It can be turned on and off through the interface settings. Barbed wire, razor wire now very much hurts you. You can walk through very slowly, but it does apply damage to you. An extended identity for characters, allowing them to have a more advanced identity along with a bio. This identity can be found as personal belongings in the character's inventory, and depending on the game mode, these identities might even contain valuable intel that can be handed in. So what this means is every player has a personal identification card, and when you look at it, some of them say that they're valuable, and you can take this to your command tent, and you can hand them into the arsenal inside of the command tent, and you can get XP for it. With the mortars came a mortar recoil functionality and muzzle blast functionality. So if you're stood next to a mortar that's being fired right into the barrel, there will be muzzle blast from it, and you will get injured, knocked out. And there is mortar recoil. So once you've got your aim set up and you fire multiple shots, the mortar will actually move with each shot. So you have to keep adjusting your aim. The mortar shells also come with charge rings. These little cheese charges on the bottom. They're like highly highly flammable, and the more you put on them, the further your shells will go, and all of that is reflected in the ballistic sheet. They also added the functionality for setting the fuse time for the illumination shells. I'm not sure if you can do it with the smokes, but with the illumination shells you can customize when you want them to go off, so you can have them go off higher or lower. They've added medical arsenals back into the field hospitals. This is something that used to be in. They took them out for some reason, but now they've added it, so the hospitals have medical boxes inside of them. There's lots of changes and tweaks here, so I'm going to glaze over some of them, and if there's any important ones I will read them out. They made changes to the third-person vehicle camera, as they thought it was feeling stiff and locked onto the vehicle. So interesting to see for those that play in third person, if they enjoy those changes or not. They've changed that commanding entries can now have rank requirements. So I think this is when you're commanding AI troops, there'll be separate options that will be locked behind specific ranks. Because I believe you can order the AI squads to fire mortars, and I think now you have to have a specific rank to be able to command them to do that. They've made climbing and jumping not possible while walking through razor wire, so that paired with razor wire damaging you makes barbed wire and razor wire a very, very important asset for base defenses. They've added geometry colliders to the armor vests and helmets, so they fully use ballistics. That means that the armor is physically accurate, so if you shoot somewhere where you do not see the armor vest, you will ignore the armor. Friendly fire kills in the kill feed are now visible to the entire team of players involved, showing both the killer and the victim. The Game Master is still able to change the setting to the default kill feed, as well as the players involved only kill feed setting. Medical items are now no longer available in the ammunition supply points. You have to get them from command tents or medical hospitals. In the command tent, there is only the bandages and tourniquets. There's nothing advanced like the morphine or the health kits and saline. The repair truck range has been increased. I think it's been doubled actually, so it can more easily allow for helicopter repairs. This one's a really nice change because you had to drive repair trucks right up to helicopters to get the rotors repaired. The protractor rotation can now be reset, and this will be really handy for when you're messing around with mortars and getting your bearings done. You can now double click on, I think it's middle mouse on PC, double click middle mouse and it will reset the rotation. They've increased the movement penalty on the leg damage effect, and this one is actually pretty huge. You can barely move at all. When you have severe injuries on your legs, you can barely move and you really need to have a medic at hand. The effective bayonet distance has been lowered, so you've got to get a bit closer now before you can get bayonet hits. They've increased the lifetime of bodies and items to 15 minutes for combat ops, so those things will last slightly longer in those co-op events rather than the PvP servers. They fixed supply duplication through the inventory. This one's a huge one. I'd heard about this, that a lot of people have found exploitive ways to duplicate supplies, so it's nice to see that they fixed that. For playable content, they've added a single player scenario called Elimination. They've also added Western Everon and Montagnac conflict variants. They've added effect modules to the Game Master, allowing the Game Master to place mortar strikes, smoke grenades, minefields and flares. The Game Master can now set faction relationships for player factions. They've added a fire support course to the tutorial. Compositions that don't belong to any base now spawn a crate that holds refunded supply upon disassembly, allowing players to collect and use it. So this is like, for example, if you've built a mortar position with a construction truck, so it doesn't belong to any base, when it gets disassembled, it will then spawn a crate that holds the supplies that were used to build said mortar placement. Because there's no medical items in the arsenals now, the HQ command posts now have basic ammunition and medical arsenals inside of them. New temporary ban options for admins have been added. They've changed the base capturing logic. The defenders can now no longer deploy on bases that the enemy is capturing. The capturing timer is now also increased per radio connection to a friendly base, giving defenders more time to react to an attack on a base in the rear. We did some testing with this, and a base that has like 4 to 5 radio connections takes several minutes to capture. Minutes of the pre-placed helicopters on the maps now use civilian variants of the helicopters. They've increased the maximum player count from 5 to 8 for combat ops on Everon. Under stability and performance, they've added multiple performance improvements related to multi-threading. Under AI, they've improved the vehicle avoidance of AI, and AI will not accelerate infinitely when avoiding a car, and they've fixed AI not spawning in certain conditions. Under audio, they've added loose layer variations for rubble footsteps. So this is when buildings have now been destroyed or in their ruined state. It now has like a rubble, like a loose brick sound when you're running over them. Under UI, they've completely reworked the nearby interaction visuals. So whenever you're walking up to a door, whenever you're pressing like your use key on something, and you have the UI popping up, like when you're inside of a vehicle, you've got all the light switches, all the door handles, all that kind of stuff. The UI has been completely reworked. It looks much, much cleaner. They've added an option as well to show the keybinds or not. So you can have it where you look at, like, for example, you look at a door handle and it will show a door like an exit symbol. But if you look at it for a couple of seconds, it will then pop up with the key that you need to press to use it. You can disable this in the keybinds if you'd like to. And there we have it. That's the patch notes for update 1.3. Of course, I didn't go over all of them. There's a bunch of minor tweaks and changes and things like that, and bug fixes. I'll leave the patch notes in the description below if you want to take a read of them yourself. But for now, I'll see you out on the field. Enjoy 1.3. Have a good one.